didn't play today. It's all good.
Should we play it now?
I think we're good today.
I think so. So I'll just welcome everybody in. That button did not work today, so I apologize for that if you love watching that. I enjoy watching that. But I want to welcome you to another episode of the Relatively Damaged Live podcast, or just live, I'm not sure. This is me. I'm Ann.
That's Angela, and I'm Kat. And we have a very serious topic today, but apparently Angela didn't get the memo.
I didn't. No, I think it was. I went to say this is me. So yeah, I'm Angela. For those of you that don't know me, and this is actually sometimes when there are tough topics, this is what happens to people. In fact, a friend of mine at church gave a talk this weekend and spoke about one time where they were in court where they couldn't stop laughing. They got kicked out of the courtroom like 3 times because they couldn't stop laughing because it was a nervous laugh. So perhaps I'm a little more nervous to talk about this than I realized, even though we've talked about it before. Yeah. So what happened between this week and last week? The only thing is my book's published.
And it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. But really what we're here to talk about is, how come suicide awareness? Why do we need to talk about suicide awareness? And one of the big, I think, important things to know about suicide is that people who, it's not always someone who we thought was going to commit suicide. Many times it's someone who we didn't think, and some huge life event just happened, and they're down well, I call it hell. They're in that hellish place of very uncomfortable feelings, thinking that it's never going to end. There might be some other things to it, and I think that's sad. I think that's really sad because those are the ones that it's like we never knew. We didn't know. Yeah. And the family wonders, how come I didn't know?
Well, I think I would guess for a lot of people is you're in so much pain in those moments and you don't know how to get out of it. And there's kind of a thing where you don't necessarily want to spread that pain to others.
Yeah.
And so
you don't, or the others panic, right?
If you let on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for that, putting that up, Angela. Yeah, you don't let on because you don't know what people are going to say. I think there's already an interior dialogue that goes on. I'm worthless. My life is over. It's never going to get better. Mm-hmm. And to hear someone reinforce that because they're in a panic state.
Right. And they don't, I don't think they mean to. I don't think that their panic, I think their panic is out of love.
Right.
It's just not helpful if someone is in that position. And I think mm-hmm. I've revealed last week that I've been that person, having those thoughts and stating that I'm having those thoughts, and having the people in my life or even the clinicians say, what is, panic. They just panic. Oh my gosh, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. One of the myths also is that talking about suicide awareness or suicide increases the chance that a person will act on it. That's actually not true. talking about suicide actually may reduce rather than increase suicidal ideation. For me, it was helpful with my chronic pain when someone told me, oh, that's normal for you to have those thoughts. Here is why. Like then I didn't feel like I was wrong or a mistake because now it was okay. Oh, okay, there's that thought again. What is it telling me? But I needed to talk about it.
Mm. And I think that brings up a very good point. Is that you're in this state of pain. You're feeling this. I'm assuming a sense of hopelessness, like it's never
Oh
going to
yeah.
end. And
Mhm.
so being told that given your condition, that is a normal response. And by normalizing that, I'm sure that helped open a door for you to get tools that you could use to cope with it.
Well, yes, cope and not feel like I was wrong to feel that way. It made a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Not only was I in a, I have complex regional pain syndrome, which impacts my arms and legs, which means that my hands look like this. Most of you guys already know that. And so what does that mean? Working is, I can't just go get a job. I can't just go do what a lot of normal people do. I need help going to the grocery store. I need help cooking. I need help, bathing. Many things that a lot of people probably just take for granted. Well, when that support isn't there, of course it's normal for me to feel like I'm the burden. I'm in a position of feeling shame, like oh it's too much for me to get a bath. And I remember uh it was 2 years ago. I want to say around this time of year when a caregiving company came in and just said, "We're not going to help you be human. We will only do like 5 things. Beyond that, there to wait for you to need them." So it was, I think it was make my bed. They could only drive me to doctor's appointments, and I had children that needed rides. Um, they could cook for me, or like I was always in the kitchen with with them. I wanted to be engaged in life,
Yeah.
but I had this company come in, and I said, "Well, what if I just want to? I see a cobweb, and I would like them to help get it down." And they said, "No, you'll need to call a housekeeper for that." Um, what if we needed a light bulb changed? Nope, you need to call a handyman. Like I was literally sitting there listening to these people, and mind you, I would have a capable person here that's getting paid to assist me, and the answer was no. And that put me in one of the worst places I could have ever been emotionally. And it angered me, and that anger also inspired me to say, you know what? I need to come out and I need to talk about these things so that people know, people understand what it's like. Having a disability it's not a cakewalk. I don't just stay home and collect money. I want to be part of the world.
Yeah. And that's that's completely understandable. Looking at some of the suicide statistics, um, the number two cause of death of people between the ages of 10 and 24 is suicide.
Mm,
For people in that age range that are in the LGBTQ plus community, it's more than 4 times higher than that. And one of that main reasons is exactly what you said. You don't feel a part of life.
mm-hmm,
You feel wrong. And that society goes through and excuse me, reinforces that in a lot of cases. You know,
mm-hmm,
and just you talking about wanting to be a part of life, wanting to participate. Again, you might not be the person who can reach up and get the cobweb, but you've got two eyes that work perfectly good and you can see that,
Right.
you
Excuse
know,
me. Yeah.
and yeah, we're both a
I just
little
needed a little
fluffy
bit of,
today.
I know, I just needed a little bit of help. And I think that's what a lot of people need. We need to reach out and support each other, lift
Right,
each other up, not put each other down. Well, you have a disability, so we're not going to do that. Or you're LGBTQ, so we're not going to love you. Or you're this or you're that. And at the core of it, we're all human.
right. Well, here I've got some stuff from the CDC about talking about prevention and this is for students mainly, but I think a lot of this applies to everyone. Enhance safety for all students. Okay, yes, you want there to be safety for everyone, whether
Right.
they're disabled, LGBTQ, of a different race, all that kind of stuff, whatever category is fine. Implement and enforce a school-wide anti-bullying policy. And really what anti-bullying is looking at it as a positive way, is acceptance of all of us as part of the human race, no matter what
Right.
our abilities, capabilities, orientation, race, gender, whatever. Encourage help seeking behaviors. So when you go out and you seek help from others, you don't feel as isolated, because isolation is one of those huge causes for
Yeah.
suicide.
Yeah.
Um, and
Which is
engaging
exactly what that company was doing. They were isolating me.
well, yeah, I mean, in a sense
I
that's
never
really
thought about it
true.
that way, but no wonder I was so, ah, I am
Yeah,
human.
yes.
Hmm.
And you have so much to offer the world, and as does every human being has value and worth and has something to offer the world, and validating that, I think that's important. And then the other thing they said, engaging parents and caregivers. So again, this is for students, but engaging those people in life, if um and I'm just going to use you as an example. Angela, you and I are friends. If you came to me and said, I'm feeling really depressed, you know, you know, I think I want to kill myself. I mean, I would be heartbroken over that. But the first thing I would do is, considering that I'm 2,000 miles away from you, is, I'd probably reach out and, I know how to get your sister and do that. And I'm a pretty smart cookie. I'd probably reach your kids too. And I'd be like, hey, your mom's in trouble. Help her out.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by engaging that. So it doesn't just apply to students, even though that's a huge high category. I mean, the other thing about
Hmm.
young people and suicide is that they, they don't have always the tools
Right.
um, developed. I mean, and it's not to say that older people don't commit suicide, because they certainly do. There certain,
Yeah.
people come ready and they're not ready for the challenges of life sometimes, or they're just overwhelmed by it and they don't feel
Yeah.
that they have that support. And so we're all in this together. We really are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to
Um,
bring up myth number two as you're talking about this.
mhm.
People who talk about suicide are just seeking attention. That's actually a myth. And I'm looking at the Mayo Clinic health system, and it says people who die from suicide have often told someone about not wanting to live anymore. They do not seek the future, or they the future. It's always important to take seriously anybody who talks about feeling suicidal. It's important to be kind and sensitive and ask direct questions. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Do you have access to weapons or things that can be used as a weapon to hurt yourself? In a loving way. Oh, tell me a little bit about, my perspective. It's tell me a little bit about what you mean by that, because that would help me too to better understand, is this a moment where I need to call 911, or is this a moment where I need to just involve support.
Right.
Um,
And here the thing is that, by calling 988, these are people who are trained to recognize, and that's something, by having that conversation, by opening it up, by saying, is this an imminent threat, or is this merely a contemplative stage,
right,
where talking it out might be able to, what do I want to say, deter those thoughts, or
right.
thinking it all the way through, like there are options.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty fairly confident that if you call 988, if you have a friend that said something to you or a loved one, and you're not sure what to do, that they can walk you through the steps and the tools. Because also, when someone says that, I think it's also traumatic to the person that's hearing it, or it can be traumatic. So that might
Hmm.
mean also that if you're on that the other end of that, that you may need some additional support as well.
Hmm. You know, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it was very interesting working at the university for so many years. We had, young adults coming in, mostly 18 to 22, and we worked with them, and we saw them every day. I mean, I saw hundreds of students every single day, and some of whom I got to know very well, and some who were going through some difficult times. And the university did a very good job of having a resource on campus that the students could go to, but also training us, the staff who dealt with student interactions, on how to kind of ask those questions. But I will say this, it was still hard when a student came up to me and they were in a crisis, and being able to talk to them, because even though you give them the resource and you tell them to go, they don't always want to go. They want to talk to someone that they know and someone that they trust.
Yeah,
And that I think if someone comes to you and they're hurting that bad, there's a certain trust that they may have in you. And like I said, I don't, it's not really attention seeking in most cases. In most cases, they're
right,
just looking for someone to acknowledge their pain, that they are in pain, and to just be a helper and to
right.
listen.
Yeah, which actually I think gets us into our next myth. People who take their own lives are selfish, cowards, or weak. Um, And it says here, again, still on the Mayo Clinic, people do not die of suicide by choice. Often, people who die of suicide experience significant emotional pain and find it difficult to consider different views or see a way out of their situation. Even though the reasons behind suicide are quite complex, frequently suicide is associated with psychiatric illnesses such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and substance abuse. Um, and that's just quite it is complex because it may or may not have anything to do with some of those things. It could just be that a life event happened, maybe there's an illness, maybe there's a loss of a job, maybe there are so many reasons. And I think what happens is that thought comes across the mind, and already feeling in suffering or in pain, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever, that picking it's like picking up that thought, and now that thought is the only thing that exists, and it's true. It's 100% true, is what it feels like. And then what happens is there's this forgetting to look for, even, or to disconfirm the thought, um, because at that point in time, with the way the brain is working, that's the only thought, and it's true. That's
Mm.
what it feels like.
Yes, you know, and here the thing is, again, the universality of it. I want to say we all have those thoughts, but we may not just take them to the extreme where we think this is it. I'm done. Like, I really needed that job, and that's the only job for me. Or with young people in the throes of first loves kind of thing. Most often those things don't last, and my life is over because they put their entire self-worth and their entire being into that. And when
Right.
it gets dashed, all hope gets dashed because there was 100% in there, and it takes time to get out of that. And going through those rough things in life, you know as a younger person, and then even as an older person,
Right.
and especially when you have years invested with somebody, and then it all
Mm-hmm.
dissolves, and then you're like, where, what am I? And you have this identity that just is dashed. um and so yeah, it really goes back to that whole thing, is that what is it that they're really feeling
Yeah.
and thinking.
I'm trying to remember what you said about the suicide rate for teenagers and college students, um, because on the Mayo Clinic it's saying that that's a myth. Teenagers and college students are the most at risk for suicide. They're saying that's a myth, and that the suicide rate for this age group is below the national average, and suicide risk actually increases with age. The age group with the highest suicide rate in the U.S. is men and women between the ages of 45 and 64. Though particular groups may be at higher risk, suicide is a problem amongst all ages and groups.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah.
Facts can be done. I mean, we tend to think, because there's so much focus on young people. um and I think both sets of facts can be correct, because I think they're read in different ways. I
Well,
mean,
and I
so
don't know when this was last updated either, but you know,
yeah.
I think we just need to worry about suicide for everyone.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I really do think that is the truth. Is to
Mhm.
be aware about it, because it can strike anybody at any age. And yeah, I mean, I think that statistic that you just read was very interesting, in terms of saying it, that yeah, people who are established in life, and who've kind of come to have this identity and establish that identity, and it gets it gets challenged because of job loss, loss of relationships, um, illness,
Lack of support
lack of
in
support.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the next myth, myth 6, says barriers to bridges, safe firearm storage, and other actions reduce access to lethal methods of suicide don't work. That's that's not true. Limiting access to any lethal means, such as firearms, sharp objects, things like that, actually are some of the simplest strategies to decrease the chance of suicide. And many suicide attempts are a result of impulsive decisions. Therefore, separating someone from a lethal means could provide a person some time to think before doing harm to themselves. Um, I'm going to say that's probably normal. That there's a reason why they talk about freezing your credit cards, right? That's an impulsive. Sometimes those are impulsive decisions, and the same thing, with suicide, it can be extremely impulsive, and mostly because, again, I'm going to go back to that thought is all that in that moment feels true.
Right. Well, so just imagine. So you have this thought, but you also have these competing other thoughts. Um, you know, this person loves me. What would they think? What would happen to my dog? All that kind of stuff. And in that impulsive moment, there might be just a rise or something in you, and those other regulating thoughts that keep you in that contemplative stage might just go out the window, and it's just like, ooh, here's a gun. you
Yeah. Well,
know
in the
not having that.
emotion.
Yeah, not having that there, though, is like, oh, I've got to make a plan. Having a weapon there makes it so much easier. And it's not to say that people, you know there's I mean, I'm not going to go into ways you can commit suicide, but there are things in a common household that can be used. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah,
But
if anyone,
the easiest
the
methods
yeah,
are often the ones that are not normally kept around.
right. That, and I just want to point out, if anyone is watching this and they've had those thoughts or they're thinking about it, the emotion is like a wave in the ocean. It does not feel like it's going to crest and come down. It does not feel like it's ever going to end in those moments. It does. It
Yes,
will.
it does.
It does. Um, and it's in that moment, usually after it's diffused a little bit, that our minds come back and things like that. And it might be, oh, I don't need help now, that thought's gone. I'm going to say that's not necessarily true. If that thought has come up, then I want to take a look at what's going on and what kind of tools I have and how I can help, what else I could learn, so that if it does happen again, that people around me are aware, and I might feel a little safer if they know I'm struggling.
Yes, yes.
And I actually, I was talking to Kat a little bit before the show. I actually lost two of my friends. One of them I lost in high school, another one shortly thereafter or toward the end of high school. I don't remember the actual dates, but I remember feeling alone when I found out and sad for them. And I did, of course, write a poem, and I'm going to share that actually. So um, probably that we need to take that off. But alone, feeling lonely, I sit here in what feels like darkness, but is light. Many things have happened that I had no power to fight. My feelings pushed back deep within, my fear an everlasting limb. With the love I fight the fear, as fear itself fights back again. For sometimes it is hard, as I feel it is dead, but love will never die. It is only for the dead I cry.
Mm.
In that moment of loneliness, and again, I don't remember exactly when or for which one I wrote this, but my assumption is that I was, I know I was crying over someone who died. Um, and really fighting back those feelings within myself of feeling alone because of a decision they made.
Mm. It is beautiful and very touching. Um, I did have a cousin who had committed suicide, and as a teen, and it was very hard. And the compassion that I had for his mother and his sister. Unfortunately, his father had died young, while he was younger than that, and so um, watching them go through with that, and the grace and the pain that was felt. It was very difficult, um, to see that. And I was still young at the time, and didn't really know, and they had moved across country, so it was kind of, we were out of their lives for a while, but just just very, very sad. Um, and like you said, you feel a loss, you feel alone when you think about
Yeah,
them, because you wish they were here with us.
yeah, most definitely. Those are, um, that's just the tough reality of that. Um, it's just hard. It really is. Regardless, whether you're someone having a thought, whether you're someone supporting someone having the thoughts or whether you're the anyone around.
Yeah.
Even talking about this, I had the nervous laughs at the beginning of the podcast, forgot who I was and what my name was. I just was going to introduce myself as me. um, yeah, it's real. These emotions are real and we all have them. And one of the things that I think it's fair enough to say that Kat and I would both like to leave you with is that all emotions exist and they tell us something. And yeah, is that fair, Kat? Can I say that for you?
You can say that for me. I would like to add something else, taking from the live that you
Okay.
put out yesterday. You are loved. You are loved for
Yeah. Yeah.
who you are, and there is someone out there who loves you. We have plenty of love to give. You can always reach out to us. You can always reach out to, like you said, 988, um, and you are loved. So
Yeah.
find the people who will help, like Mr. Rogers says, find the helpers, and find the people that you will love. It is out there.
Yeah. And what Kat's speaking about is my recognition that we're not perfect. No one's perfect. And that's why I love all the people I love in my life because if they were perfect, I would definitely have some big problems. Anyhow, sending my heart to you all. Suicide Awareness Week, Suicide Awareness Month, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, next week. Bye.